Come on, don't do this to me. Press go live. Connect
We're
streaming.
live now. We're live now.
Great. I don't think Instagram is on. Maybe it is.
Let me see.
Oh,
I
there it
see the
is.
check
I
mark.
see it.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I see it now. Great. So we are in the zone.
Hey, hey. Hey, hey. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Here we go at another PR Power Hour. And Fridays are going to be reserved for moving forward. It's going to be reserved for conversations with some of those supermen and women who actually parent, build a business, and take care of their parents. It's one thing when you are momming or dadding while being an entrepreneur, but as we get older, our parents get older, and then they need us more. And how do you build a business when sometimes you're not in control of your schedule because you have doctor's appointments, because you have a parent who needs because they might not be as mobile as they used to be, or you have to give pills throughout the day so you can't just travel and be gone all day. Like, we're having that discussion. I'm Shantae Bacon, comms coach, and my guest today is Monique. Monique Holmes. We have been friends for God knows how long. It's been so long. And Monique is a business coach extraordinaire. Used to be an interior designer, used to be a advertising executive, just a million wonderful things, and came from the music business, and that's how we met. And we're both moms and caretakers and entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for that introduction. And it's been a pleasure, growing our friendship and doing business together. And I know that it seems like recently, over the last, maybe I'll say couple years, 2 years, 2 or 3 years, we've been having these conversations about like how life has changed for us and what life looks like now as entrepreneurs and also as caretakers and caregivers. And I think that I love that you're having this conversation, or that we're having this conversation, because I feel like there's a lot of other people out there that may be, experiencing the same things that we're experiencing.
Absolutely, a lot of people. I
Yeah.
mean, the thing about parents is that I know you love your parents the way I love mine, and my dad passed when I was 16. And so that's a certain type of trauma, but
Yeah.
we have a large and loving family. So I'm the youngest of four siblings. I have 14 nieces and nephews, including their kids, my nieces and nephews' kids. And so the family remained super tight after my dad passed away. And we did not have, like, in terms of the core group of us, we didn't have any losses for 30 years until 2023 my sister passed. But the thing is that when you have a large loving family, when you have parents you adore who raised you and were there for you and that kind of thing, one of the things is as they get older, um, not everybody chooses to take care of their parents as they get older. So I do know some people who are like, "Oh, I'm not giving my life for theirs." I don't understand that mentality at all, because I
Yeah.
watched my mom take care of my grandmother, so it was the most natural
Same.
thing on planet Earth to me that this
Right.
person gave you life and gave you everything that you have. Like, when they need you, it's your time to step up. And
Yeah.
I'm the youngest, and I hear that sometimes it falls on the youngest because you're the person with the most energy to, step up to that job. So,
Right.
um, as there are some people who may have aging parents and they're alone, no, like a only child. And so that job is taking care of two aging parents at the same time while working a job or growing a business. And a
Mhm.
lot of times they're kind of like forgotten founders, right? So they're
Mhm.
building a business, creating opportunity for other people. They are job creators. They have, in some cases, small children, in some cases, older children. But that job of caretaking your parents and taking care of them as well, that's a doozy.
Yeah.
It's something really that doesn't get a lot of conversation or dialogue, no narrative about it that's out there in the entrepreneurial space.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I know you come from a big family. And so I think that's just interesting dynamic, especially when you're the youngest, because
Hmm.
I agree, like it usually falls, on the youngest. Um, and I agree too, like with how I feel the same way. Like, I grew up where my family, my mom's side of the family is from the islands, and then my father, is American. They're from the South. They're from Atlanta,
Uh-huh.
and but in the islands, it's like you said, like it's customary that you take care of your parents
Oh
when they get
yes,
old. Like they don't even believe in putting
nursing
your
homes.
parents in an old folks home or convalescent home. They don't believe in that. It's like it's shunned upon actually.
Right.
um and so I saw that same pattern. Like my mom took care of my grandmother. She moved her here to Virginia in our home and took care of her until unfortunately she passed in 2017 of cancer. And I watched my mom like literally, like she retired from the military and then was my grandmother's full-time caretaker, as she progressed and got sick. And it was a beautiful thing, to know and see. Like it's unfortunate, but it was a beautiful thing to see how she cared for her.
Yep.
And it really does take a lot of sacrifice. I know my mom like really sacrificed and put a lot of things aside in her retirement years just so that she could take care of her. And now my mom's retired and, she's had some health ailments. And so I am, stepping into that role or have had to step into that role. And I think that, like you said, it's just one of those things where it's a blessing because they gave us birth. And, I feel like it's not as a duty, but it is, it's just the right thing to do. Right.
It, and not even just the right thing to do, but like I want to do it because of
Yeah.
everything that she has given me. It is
Right.
I said this on a Instagram post. I think it was Mother's Day, maybe like 2 years ago. But I said it is my genuine pleasure to
Hmm.
be there for her now after she's been there for me my whole life. I
Yeah.
mean, who would I be? How would I be an entrepreneur or
Mhm.
a mom if it wasn't for her? Like she
Yeah.
was the first entrepreneur I ever met, right? Like she was the one
Mhm.
who started a business in our basement. And
Mhm.
then, and if there's any people out there from Jamaica, Queens, she started the company in our basement, and then we moved it. She moved it onto Jamaica Avenue above the Chase Bank, like inside that building on the corner.
Wow.
But seeing that every day, I would leave school when I was in high school and then go up to her office on Jamaica Avenue. That I mean, you
Yeah.
don't see things like that every day, right? Seeing
Yeah.
entrepreneurship in real life, like every
Mhm.
day, what sacrifices it takes to build a business, what happens when you fall out with your partner, all of those kinds of things. I got lessons on that as a kid.
Wow.
And you don't want to pay for office space because you want to keep your overhead low. How do you convert a room in your home to do your business? Like those
Mhm.
were all things. Entrepreneurship was never not an option for me
Yeah.
personally. Like it
Yeah.
was always in my destiny to
Right.
to be an entrepreneur. It's just what the timing was going to be. Um,
Mhm.
and I I mean, the it's not easy at all,
Mhm.
especially because I did not expect that I had a baby in 2020. He's 4. He is the love of my life, my forever Valentine. But I'm 5 months pregnant, and that's when the bulk of the transition happened, where it was like, time to step up in the caretaker role. So those two things were happening at the same time. And I remember Kamala Harris at the presidential debate in, I think it was 2020, when she originally was running against Joe Biden and they had that Democratic primary. Maybe,
Yeah. I think it
yeah,
was
maybe
2020.
2019. She was
Yeah.
the only person on the stage who brought up the sandwich generation and do we have resources for them? And at the time, did not know I was going to have a son the following year, did not know the role of caretaker that I was going to take on. But I said, yeah, I mean, that's really important that they're focusing on those women because I know people like that. And then within a
Yeah.
year, I'm like poster child for the sandwich generation. And it was just like, hi, yes, we're here.
We're
Um,
here, right? Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so it was like kind of like, yeah, this is a really um I won't say unacknowledged, but it's just like a forgotten founder because
Mhm.
entrepreneurship piece to it is like being an entrepreneur who can live out of a suitcase, who can not have any food in the refrigerator because you're never there, who can go
Mhm.
out every night and pitch clients all day long and do all of your rooftop mimosa brunches and this and that while you're
Right.
schmoozing clients. That's great. All of that stops when you have a baby, but especially when you have a toddler and a parent that
Mhm.
needs you increasingly that changes the game. So the type of the way you do business is going to change.
Yeah.
Your role in the business, and if you're lucky enough, your business model should change too,
Yeah.
because you're not going to be able to do it the way that you used to do it.
Mm.
Can you talk about the way that becoming a mom and a caretaker has changed your business?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, it has changed so much. I think the biggest transition that I've had to make is like realizing that your time is no longer your time and you can't move the same way you used to move.
Right.
That was the biggest struggle for me. And it's still a struggle. Like I still have days where I'm like, okay, Monique, you might have a list of, 10 things that you want to get done, but I have to like bring myself to reality and be like, okay, but you're probably not going to get those 10 things done. Like,
Uh-huh.
I've had to learn to give myself grace and know that it's okay if you can't get it all done, and to, just try to like do a couple of things, even if it's one, two, or three things, and not like internalize it and beat yourself up. Because as entrepreneurs, we are very, you know, performance driven. We are
Absolutely.
go-getters. We, are people who work in a level of excellence. And if you
Want
if
it
you
done
can't
a certain
bring it
way.
in, you're not going to do it. Like I'm one of those people. If I'm not doing it at 110%, I'm not doing it at all.
Right.
And so I've had to like really realize and understand that my time is not no longer all of my time anymore. And I have to be okay with, I think this is the biggest thing. I have to be okay with starting something and being okay with not finishing it. Like I'm one of those
Mhm.
people, like when I start something, I want to finish it. Like I want to see it to completion. But when you are a mom and you are a caretaker, your time doesn't work like that. Like I feel like your time gets kind of almost like you have to work in blocks of time. And I've
Right.
had to learn how to do that. Like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to probably get interrupted in about an hour or 30 minutes. And that's okay. And I can put it down and then I have to learn how to come back to it. And I think that's the biggest challenge for me because when you're an entrepreneur, I mean, I remember when I used to, live in New York and live in New Jersey, and I would work. This is before I transitioned and actually started my design business. But while I was working my full time job in advertising, I would work and then I would come home, take a shower, have some dinner, and then I'd start my second job, which was my business.
Absolutely.
And I could work until, midnight, go to sleep, wake up, do it all over again. And I love that. Like it was okay because I owned all of my time.
Yep.
But when you have a child, when that baby says, I'm hungry, or mommy, I want something to eat, or mommy, I need help, like you
Or,
have to,
or I want your attention. Like it doesn't
or
even have to be as critical as I'm hungry. It could be like I'm not getting your attention. What's going on?
exactly. And even little things like, doing lives and doing meetings, having meetings. A lot of my meetings with my clients are over Zoom. And now, it's like, it might be possible. It might happen where my daughter might come in and just pop in because she wants to be in the video. Right. And like, just being okay with that and not making it
Yeah.
frustrate you, and just know that this it's just a different dynamic. It's a different dynamic that you have to embrace, and I think give yourself grace.
So you said a couple of things that I'd like to revisit. So number one, if anybody is on here watching, please drop in the comments any tips that you have about being a parent, a caretaker, and an entrepreneur. I'm going to drop three real quick. Number one, when my son got old enough to understand that when I'm on Zoom, I'm talking to people and going back and forth. He was maybe like 2 when he's like, "Oh, she's talking to other people who are going to talk back," and he then became a professional Zoom crasher. So not even just doing it like, doing it by mistake, but doing it on purpose and having fun doing it. Like, hi, just kind of
Right.
popping my head in. And as an entrepreneur, I used to be like freaking out, like, oh my God, that's
Mhm.
unprofessional. And then
Yeah.
after a while, I was just like, you know what?
That's it
I'm
is what it
doing
is.
so many things in the background that doesn't take anything away from my talents or what I'm contributing to the conversation, unless I can't think straight. But if I'm still on my same thought pattern and my track, that's one thing that I'm not going to freak out about.
Right. Right.
Usually, the person who helps me with my son will come running in the room, snatch him up, and all of that because he'll make a break for it just so he can crash the Zoom, right? And that's
Mhm.
just what it is. He wants to crash the Zoom. So
Right.
that's the first thing. The second thing is, I to the point that you made about the way that entrepreneurs do it. We're usually alpha. We're usually like it has to be a standard of excellence. We're usually like, if I can't do this the best way it can possibly be done, then I don't want to do it. That
Mhm.
has to be released a little bit too. But I will
Yeah.
say this. So we're Gen X. I'm pretty sure you're Gen X, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
so that standard of high excellence and it has to be done a certain way, that's some Gen X shit right there.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, we were the ones who was sold the whole hustle till you die, sleep when you
Yes.
hustle,
Speak
hustle,
when you
hustle, has to be
right.
excellence, standard of excellence to the sky. Like that, other generations don't stress themselves out with that. They really don't.
No.
They're just like,
I
you
mean, if
know
you
what?
look
I'm
at
doing
social
this.
media, yeah, it's like, okay, if you're not, I mean, it's just like it is whatever your background looks like. It's like you could be looking crazy, but you know what? That authenticity sells. Like that is what
Absolutely.
people actually thrive and they want. And you're right,
Absolutely.
it's a totally different dynamic.
It's a whole different dynamic, and it's really about what you bought into personally. Because
Right.
for example, like when just in terms of some Gen X shit is like making sure that you look good when you're on camera. You don't need to do
Mhm.
that because when you look around, listen, the authenticity sells. But
Right.
also in terms of what you do for a living, right? The thing that
Mhm.
you want people to know, you're better at this than other people, that there's a lot less people out there who have less talent than you that are being celebrated or getting more visibility or coverage. Because I am the comms coach. We hear this all the time. Like, people who are less talented than me are getting positioned as authorities, and what's going on with that with my business. So
Right.
part of it is that we're spending so much time making sure that it's excellent and the standard of excellence is high. And they're spending time being okay with being mediocre, but splitting the time between going and getting visibility for it.
Yes.
You have to carve out time for it. There are a lot of people who their professional job is to get coverage on themselves, to get press, to get on
Mhm.
panels, to get, they're working on their brand 24/7, and whatever they do for a living is secondary. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that that's the way for me because I can't do that. Like, I'm married to my standard of excellence. I just am. I need it a certain way, and that's it. But
Yeah.
don't let that become, like a noose around your neck, keeping
Yeah.
exploring visibility and everything else. Like, that's critical. Is that
Yeah.
don't let your standard of excellence have you in the back toiling away in silence,
Mhm.
and people don't have any idea about you because you're so excellent serving this small group of people. That's part
Yeah.
of it. And the third thing that I was going to touch on is the self-care, because we're all entrepreneurs
Mhm.
here. One of
That's
the
good.
things that I have had to that I've realized that caretaking requires is there is a certain level of trauma that happens to you
Yeah.
when you see your parents, who you remember as strong and independent, lose their independence every day and become different people. Because it's not the same as losing someone suddenly, right? It's like
Mhm.
losing them in inches every day. And what does that do to you when you see it? Like, that has to be dealt with, because just being like, oh, I'm taking care of a baby, I'm taking care of my aging parent, and I'm taking care of my business, that part is still there. And a lot of people don't deal with it until after their parent passes away, but that needs self-care, it needs attention, it needs therapy, it needs conversation, it at least needs acknowledgement that
Yeah.
that seeing them change, it's doing something to you too.
Yeah, yeah. That's so good. And I, especially just going back to the self-care part, like I feel like you also have to be unapologetic about taking care of you and exercising self-care, because a lot of times when you're an entrepreneur, you're a mom and you're a caretaker, you know, your schedule is packed and you have to find some time for yourself to refuel yourself. I always remind myself of the example of when you're getting ready to take off on a flight, right? And this, the pilot comes on and he gives the instructions, the safety instructions, and they talk about how if, in a case of emergency or emergency landing, put your oxygen mask on first before you turn and put the mask on the other passenger next to you. And I think that in life and being a caregiver, that's, you have to exercise that, because and I have to remind myself, if I'm not good, I'm no good for anybody else.
Yep, that is
And
true.
it looks like, the way that you do that is you have to be really intentional about where you spend your time, um, and what you're doing, and making sure that you're carving out time for yourself, because you have to pour back into yourself so that you can pour into others, into your family.
Absolutely. And also, one of the things that, as I talk to entrepreneurs who are caretakers, one of the things that we all are very terrible at is serving so many needs that you forget your own.
Yeah.
So, and I'm caught in this trap. So you start living your life in the middle of the
Mm.
night when everyone else is asleep. Never mind that you're getting like 3, 4 hours of sleep a night, but you're like, yes, freedom.
Yeah.
It's midnight. Everybody's asleep, right? So you
Yeah.
get your time to think and
Hmm.
actually
Hmm.
be able to do what you're doing. And so that's a trap because you end up being exhausted. It's
Tired.
like you have to be like, thank God for school. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It starts 8:30 in the morning. So that gives you a good little window until at least like 2:30, 2:45. And
Right.
during that time, even if so, one of the things that I personally have had to deal with is I'm used to working around the clock, right? From when
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
a woman who just could dedicate her time to her business. And so realizing that I'm not going to have that many hours to dedicate to any business. I'm
Yeah.
going to have the 6 or 7 hours while he's in school. And
Mhm.
I need to carve that thing up, slice and dice it the right way, because
Yeah.
after he comes out of school,
Yeah.
um, like, that's his time. I
Yep.
cannot take away from his time to give it to a PR plan, a marketing strategy, experiential, activation. I cannot take that. That is his time, because one of my mentors, Sheila Eldridge, she said, listen, you have to teach your kid everything, because anything you don't teach them, they won't know. And
Yeah.
that was such critical words that I needed to hear, because when you're busy, you think, oh, yeah, school is going to take care of everything. The school is not taking care of anything. School is
No.
enhancing what you're doing at home. They're not taking the
Absolutely.
lead on anything. And
Mhm.
so that, like, I don't even remember that being the case from when I was a kid. Like, we was schoolwork was school. You did most of
Mhm.
your stuff in school.
Yeah.
Now I feel like completely different about it. Like, I start and they follow.
Yep.
And
It's true.
that's
Yeah.
everything from how he holds a pen to, reading and getting the sight words, and,
Yep.
make build growing a fire in him about reading.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm doing. So,
Mhm.
and that time is required. So it's so many things that you have to do to recalibrate your brain, because entrepreneurship, the way that you used to know it, is not going to work the same way. Not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And, like when you were talking about carving out the time, I think that you have to make some really hard decisions, because you have to think about what is the most important. Like I remember when, I had my daughter and my mom, started needing more support and more help in the home. And I was like, man, how am I going to do all of this? Right. And I had to like really think about what is the most important, right? Work is important, yes, because that brings in the money. That's what supports you. But at the
Definitely.
end of the day, your kid and your kids and your parents are the most important. Family and health is the most important. So I had to kind of like rearrange things and say and allocate blocks of time to it. And then, like you said, cut off time for at night. Like at night, after like 6 o'clock, I'm not looking at no emails. I'm not answering phones. Like I'm making lunch for the next day. I'm taking her to cheer practice. I'm probably driving around. If we're home at 7 o'clock, it's so funny. My mom's like, because my mom's retired military, and she's like, "Girl, you run your house like a military." Because I'm like, okay, 7 o'clock, we're going upstairs and we're going to get a bath. I'm running
Absolutely.
the
That is
bath.
not
I'm
bad.
getting your clothes out ready for school, right? And then we have some mommy time, mommy daughter time. We'll read a book, and then it's bedtime
Right.
because I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, right?
Right.
Because I'm an educator and an entrepreneur. And so my day starts very early. So I know that if I don't run that schedule, everything falls apart.
Oh, yes. And
And
then not
so
only that, if
to
you don't
block that,
run the schedule, they get hurt by it. They
yeah,
need to stay on a schedule. Like
yeah,
you being a person who's up late, who's doesn't, bedtime can be whatever. That doesn't
mhm,
hurt just you. It hurts them too. Like
yeah.
the kids and elderly
They're
people
watching.
need structure.
Yes,
What?
yes.
I mean, that them having their time all over the place, that
Mhm,
right there hurts them too. So, like running your house like you run a business, that becomes
mhm.
your new, like that is your new entrepreneurial gig.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a well-oiled machine, like this right here, and sticking to those times no matter what. Because
Yeah.
um, I noticed that like I had to have the school partner with me on this. I was like,
Mhm,
in order for this to work, we have
mhm.
to kill the nap at school. I know you guys
Yeah.
love it, but no, like
Mm-mm.
this right here can't run well at home if y'all are gonna do that. And finally got them to buy in. And as soon as they made a change at school, everything started working so much better.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, like, all parts of it work together. Like, you have to put boundaries on everyone involved. I almost treat the school situation like as if, like, they work for you, because the truth is like,
They do.
even whether you have private school and you
Mhm.
pay tuition or you have public school, like, this is what we need to have a successful student. You
Absolutely.
taking the lead. This is what we're doing at home. I need you guys to start doing this in the classroom. Like those things matter. And then with your senior caretakers as well, like
Yeah.
you being partnered with doctors, that is so
Mhm.
underrated. Like the doctors, the cardiologists, the pulmonologists, the electrophysiologists,
Right.
we are partners in this. They
Yeah.
like, what do you need? You need
Yeah.
to send another, prescription for this. You need a scale. You need a so and so. You
Mhm.
need more books. All of it. Like everyone has to be in partnership in order.
Together.
So it's literally like running a business. So
It
you
is.
got
It
a
is.
business that you run like an entrepreneur, and then in order to keep everyone safe, happy, healthy, and not for it to feel like a chaos center, you just
Mhm.
have to have partners all over. Teachers are partners, the medical staff
Yeah.
partners, even I'm gonna go as far as saying the pharmacist at
Yeah.
CVS. Me and
Yeah.
her
Oh,
too.
absolutely.
She's like,
Right.
"Oh, yeah, y'all are traveling tomorrow. I'm on top of it. Let me get that." Like I
Yes.
want to call them twice. She's like,
Mhm.
"I need you to back me up and call them and push them to, be a little faster." So
Yeah.
like it all works together.
It does. It does. And I've noticed, and it's funny you said that about like how important it is to work together, especially with your parents' doctors and stuff like that. And it's true because I remember my very, very first job. I was 15 years old, and I got this job because I wanted to be able to buy my own shoes and clothes. And actually, particularly, I wanted to be able to buy the new Jordans when they came out. And my mom was like, you know what? I'm responsible for clothing you, feeding you, keeping a roof over your head, not buying $100 pair of tennis shoes. So I was
Okay.
like, okay, bet I'm gonna go get a job.
Right.
So it's funny because my first job was at a convalescent home, and
Ooh,
I was a server. I served dinner for the residents there. And one of the things that I would always notice is like they would always be really talkative. Like they would want to talk, and I would serve them their food, and I'd just sit down and have conversations with them. And a lot of them, what I realized out of getting to know them was that they were alone. You
uh-huh.
know, they didn't have any family, or if they did have family, they didn't come visit them. And it really like opened my eyes to what the majority of Americans, when they get older, what their lives are like. And it broke my heart. I was like, man, these people are here and they're living in their last days of their life, and they're alone. And
Yeah.
I've
And some
always
of them
kind of
have
kept
kids.
that in, huh?
And some of them have kids, a lot
Yeah,
of kids.
exactly.
They're
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. And so I've always kind of kept that in the back of my mind, and I was like, when my parents get older, like I'm gonna, try to be there to the best of my ability. But I say that all that to say that I think one of the other things that's really important is you have to be your parents, or your aging parents. You have to be their advocate,
Yep.
especially when it comes to medical and working with their doctors, because the moment that they see that, hey, they have someone in their corner, they have someone that's going to speak up for them when they can't speak up for themselves, it changes the game. It changes the level and the quality of care that they get. You know, I was just in the hospital, unfortunately, with my mother a couple of weeks ago. And like you, Shantae, like, she's got a numerous, set of doctors, from her oncologist, from her, PCP, from her gastrologist, like all these doctors. And they weren't really speaking to each other. And they were putting a new treatment plan together. And I had to like step in and say, listen, I don't know what you need to do, but all of you need to communicate so that we
Absolutely.
can create a plan that's going to work. And sometimes it really needs that. And that's kind of that's the challenge for people like us, is we have to like put on our big panties and big girl
Right.
panties and like step in, because a lot of times they don't have a voice for themselves. And so that's a challenge, but it's necessary when you're a caregiver.
Absolutely. And you just said a whole lot right there. So I feel like, because, we're talking to an audience of
Mhm.
entrepreneurs who are operating at a certain level. So a lot of them have been in business for a certain time period, and they've kind of automated their lives around how their business works, right?
Mhm.
So you can get some, even if there's highs and lows, which is all part of entrepreneurship. If
Yeah.
you've been doing it for a while and you've crossed certain milestones in terms of revenue, then you have learned a few things and how to stabilize your business and your income. And once
Right.
you start doing the parent and caretaker thing, what's destabilized is how you can show up, which
Yeah.
destabilizes other things. But what I find has worked best is, to your point, like treating the house like it's a new business that you have to run,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So it's that needs the entrepreneur part of you as well. What I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of us hold back on is that you remember your parent as this strong decision maker, person who took care of you. So
Right.
you're reluctant to
Yeah.
actually be your parent's parent, right?
Yeah.
And that is the point where some things lag on too long, because
Mhm.
you have to be the parent.
That's
Because
good.
especially when you, like, your mom was in the hospital, mine was as well in January, and that's when we got, this was all new, that's when we got a team of electrophysiologists. I didn't even know what that was.
Right.
Pulmonologists, cardiologists, all of that working together. We've
Right.
been blessed enough to just have like a general care physician all this time. But then when it became a whole team, number one, you got to educate yourself on what's going on, because you need to ask questions. So just
Mhm.
letting them talk amongst themselves, I'm not doing that. I was
Mm-mm.
like, what does
Mhm.
this mean, and what does that mean, and what
Right.
what does this? I make sure I pronounce
Have
everything
y'all
correctly.
done this? What have you done?
Question: if you're
Yeah.
administering anesthesia, I want to know that you know what happened with Joan Rivers and every other anesthesia disaster that has happened, and what happened there, and what would you do to avoid it. Like, you have to know that these people know what's
Mhm.
going on, and also when they see that you're involved, they
Yeah.
become more invested. It is
Yes.
absolutely nothing for one of them to call my cell phone and be like, so how's
Mhm.
this going, how's that going? Because they know that we're a team. When we go in there, like, you're doing a great job, you need a job.
Right.
Like, you work, all of these terms. Like, it's because I need
Yeah.
to make sure that this works, right?
Right. Right.
My mom and my son are best friends, two
Mhm.
Virgos always trying to gang up on me, right? But I'm not gonna let them gang up on me. And that's his nana, and she is like gonna fight anybody who wants to make him do something he doesn't want to do, like get his hair washed, or or combed or go to school or go to bed early. It's so hilarious, the dynamic between them. If
Yeah.
I say bedtime, he
Same.
goes straight to Nana, like, Nana. I'm like, it's bedtime. Like, it
Right.
doesn't matter. It's bedtime. So that whole thing between them, I need that to go on for as long as humanly possible. So
Mhm.
making sure that you run the house in a way that is going to present an environment where both of them can thrive and love on each other, because
Yeah,
that's really all they should be worried about. And
that's
then
right.
whatever resources you need for yourself, it's critical that you feed that part of it as well, and you don't just become numb. Because I think in the early years, the numbness, I was
Yeah.
just like, what is going on? My niece, she would be like, what is going on? What about you? And I
Yeah.
was like, so sleep deprived, because Booski
Mm.
wouldn't, he came home as a person who didn't know the difference between day and night. And so I watched the sun come up for like 90 days. And all of that, I was sleep deprived and just numb. And after a while,
Mm.
I was like, I need to make this thing work better than
Yeah.
this. It needs
Yeah.
to, I know how to run a business. We're gonna run this thing right here, just like it's a
Mhm.
business. And
That's
everyone's
right.
happier because of it and thriving because of it, and and learning and growing.
Yeah.
I think that as entrepreneurs specifically, because this is a comms conversation, we talk about helping entrepreneurs to transition from being a forgotten founder to a person who is positioned properly for the win, positioned for profit, and how they can come out of the shadows and how they can be comfortable getting visibility. And that can only happen when your home life is stabilized, and
Yeah.
that the part of you that has to balance being a caretaker and an entrepreneur and a parent is all in sync.
Yeah.
So you have coached a lot of entrepreneurs over the years. Can you? I'm transitioning into this coaching role, and everyone's stories are so dynamic, and I usually feel like positioning the coaching thing as I get to be a part of this person's journey,
Yeah.
as opposed to like, oh, I got to do this X, Y, and Z. It's kind of like God
Mhm.
chose me to be a person to support this person's particular journey at this moment in time. What are my contributions going to be? But
Right.
can you talk about coaching entrepreneurs and like how it's kind of hard to transition from being a solo entrepreneur who moves and works all night and does what you want to do to being a person who is not in control of 60% of your time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's important because that transition is a transition. And I know I remember, going from running my interior design firm and then, coaching, going and getting into the coaching space and coaching other entrepreneurs and also interior designers. Um, it was a transition because it required me to not just exercise my skills, but really take a step back and look at, okay, what are all of the skills that I've gained as being an entrepreneur? And also looking at what are the mistakes that I've made
Uh-huh.
and figuring out like, what are some of the things that I can bring to the table as a coach and coach my clients to make sure that I'm kind of leading them on the right track and giving them the tools so that they could have a faster acceleration to success. And I think that that's the goal and the role of a coach, right? They've been down the journey, down the road that person that they're coaching wants to go down. And so I think, my responsibility as a coach is really looking at, okay, as a business owner in my experience, what are all the things that I can bring to the table to teach? And I think that transition is just like, man, you have to, especially being a mom and a caretaker, a caregiver, you really have to compartmentalize. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is you have to look at, okay, I have this business. How much time do I dedicate to the business and my clients, right? Because coaching is not a, a 9 to 5. It's not a thing where, you sit on a call with a client and then when you get off the call, you're done, right? It's a constant because you're invested
Yep.
in someone's business. It's a constant, not stressing, but you're always thinking about how can I help? Because I feel like we are really in the helping business.
Yeah.
And so you're constantly thinking about, okay, how can I, help my client? How can I help them, excel? So you have to really compartmentalize, and you have to also compartmentalize your home, right? Your home life and being a mom. What does that look like?
Right.
When are those cutoff times? Like we were talking about in the evenings, I have a schedule. And when I tell you I always make the joke that I'm always running to the, like, down to the minute, right? That's how structured my
Uh-huh.
schedule is. But I also leave room for flexibility because things will happen. Life
Right.
will life, right? But you have to have a lot of structure. And so I basically compartmentalize things between the business. Okay. What time am I going to dedicate to my clients? And also to, my job. And then what is my daughter's time? And
Yep.
that's evening times. That's 6 o'clock. It's all her time. It's her time, right?
Yep.
Her and my time. And then compartmentalizing, taking care of my mom and helping my mom. And what does that look like? During the day, I'm texting her, making sure she's okay. I am on the weekends, I'm helping her grocery shop to make sure that there's food in the house that she has, that she can, have access to. Like, there's just so many little moving parts that you have to schedule in and almost like create a routine.
Right.
Because, if not, you will be very stressed.
Yeah.
So you have to
And
get
then
really.
they will suffer. They will
Say that.
definitely suffer from, like, one thing about being a mom who's drowning in chaos. The
Mhm.
kids are definitely going to be affected by it for sure. You will
Yeah,
start to see that show up in all kind of ways, and it's because the home life feels so chaotic. Home is
yeah.
supposed to be a place of peace,
Mhm.
even when there is a lot going on, because you have an aging senior, because you have a toddler who's diving off the couch. For any of the boy moms that are out there, they never met a surface they didn't want to jump up on and climb and dive off of. Even with all of that, it still has to be their place of peace, or
Mm,
kids will get to the point where they don't even want to come home. They'll be like,
yeah.
"Can I stay out? I want to stay in the park. Can I stay so and
Mhm.
so?" And you're like, "Wow."
Yeah,
They pick up on anxiety just like anyone else, and they don't like it.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
you become a more calm, peaceful person, and
Mm,
you live in a house that is grounded in peace, and in some place where people feel safe and comfortable. They definitely feel it, and
yeah.
that's something that has to be. It requires a certain amount of structure. It requires the same dedication you have to your business to running that house in that way, so that you don't have a situation where it is so like you don't want to think about it, you don't want to be there, they don't want to be there, no one wants to be there, because it feels like everybody's drowning.
Stress. Yeah, yeah. And you had mentioned something earlier about how, like, it's important to teach your kids, right? Because yeah, they learn stuff in school, but what they learn at home is really the things that stick, and it creates that foundation. And I remember I can't remember what book it was that I was reading. I think it was by Rachel Rogers. Um, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the book, but she said something and it was so profound. And she was like, how as an entrepreneur, you have to teach your kids, right? You have to train them to live within, right, the structure that you've created. And also as an entrepreneur, like, especially if you work from home, right, and you have a kid or kids, they're going to want to come in the office, they're going to want to come in bomb your Zoom call.
Right. Zoom
And one,
crash.
yeah, Zoom crash, right? And so one of the things that I've started to do was, I talked to my daughter and I explained to her, mommy's an entrepreneur. Mommy, is an educator. She has a job. I'm her mom. And when I'm working, that's mommy's time to work, to help her clients, to support, her clients. And that's part of her job. And so when I'm working, I need to, be focused. I need to make sure that I can dedicate that time to work. And so we have like a rule right now. She doesn't always follow, but most of the time she respects it. When the doors close, that means that mommy's working, right? But the moment that that door opens, mommy is there, right? You have my full attention. And I think that that's really important to teach your kids because they're watching you and they're looking
Oh,
and seeing, okay, how does mommy do business? How does she run her business? Is she, is she focused? Is she dedicated? All those things. And I think I think it's very important to talk to your kids because your kids are smarter sometimes than we think they are.
oh,
And
yes, and
you can
observe
talk
it.
to them. Yeah, and they understand.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah.
even if they don't know exactly the concept of work, they know when you say you're doing work. So you
Mhm.
are, obviously Layla's older than Richard, but you just dropped something that is going to help me because I definitely have to start trying to have that conversation. Even though he's 4, he knows that when I'm sitting here, I'm working.
Yeah.
Right. And then sometimes he'll sit in the seat and he'll be like, take a pen and I'm working. I'm like, oh, okay, you working? Okay. Or he'll do his fingers like this on the keyboard.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, you're doing your work? Okay. He
Yeah.
knows the kind of basic concepts, but you're absolutely right because what that does is lay a foundation for structure, right?
Yeah.
Because entrepreneurship doesn't work without systems. It just doesn't. I mean, that's
Right.
kind of like the main thing. Like if you're a person who's like rolling your eyes every time you hear some new business coach or see some new Facebook or Instagram ad from a business coach and you see somebody else is doing a new coaching program because they're all using the same buzzwords, right? And they say mindset, 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 mindset. You hear that everywhere. Every coach it all starts with mindset, right?
Yeah.
So that's true. But what they really are trying to accomplish is to get you to build your mindset around the idea, anchor it on the idea of building a system that's going to work for you. And
Yeah.
you have to, in order for you to build a system, you have to be committed to it. You
Yeah.
have to be able to dissect whatever situation is a pain point for you, pull it apart, pull all the pieces apart. What would happen if this operated better? What would happen if this was run better? What would happen if this, and then build a system that's going to work for you? Because without that, you definitely, and a lot of times when you pick things apart, limiting beliefs and self-doubt are also pieces that need to be picked apart from there, because
Yeah.
if your language is defeating or your mentality is defeating or you're not even going to try to figure out how to institute some order here because you're that underwater and just can't even think straight, that's going to stop you from creating the system that would change everything. It
Yeah.
usually is only a few changes that need to be made in order for you to systemize whatever is giving you the most pain around being a parent and a caretaker, right? If you could
Yeah.
get that on a system, if you could get some team members in place to help you with that, it would change everything. Then you
Yeah.
could focus on, raising the profile of your business, positioning yourself for the win, making sure that every time you look up, it's not some less talented version of you that's out there getting the proper positioning and the kind of media coverage that your business actually earned. Like that's the part, is like it really isn't rocket science and it's not too expensive, but it is a mindset of kind of extracting all of the obstacles and self doubts and limiting beliefs and the ways in which you're setting yourself up. And I'm speaking 100% from experience, because if
Yes.
there's one thing I know how to do is get in my own way. And
Mhm.
having
As we
the
all.
ability to, if you have the ability to pick that apart, it changes everyone's experience all around you.
For sure.
And that we should all learn from entrepreneurship. Every day as an entrepreneurship is an opportunity to learn how to do something better. And we've
Yeah.
had our business for 20 years. On January 5th, it turned 135 agency turned 20 years old. We have
Right.
seen more and done more and forgotten more than most people will ever learn
Mhm.
about running a business, team building, marketing, entrepreneurship, communications, experiential. But the thing about it is that every stage of life is going to present new challenges. And it's like you
Mhm.
have to be like ready for it, because no one prepares you. Autumn Marie, who is watching this, she said, "No one preps us for this stage of life with our parents." That is a
Mm,
mouthful, Autumn, and so true. Like, I
that's-
remember when I first started seeing signs of my mom's dementia, and I was like, "Ugh, scary." First, you're
mm,
kind of scared and you're shocked by it, and then after a while, it becomes normalized. And then I'm like, nobody ever warned me that this was coming. Like, no one. And then you get to the point where when they start to lose physical mobility, you're really in the trenches, in the bathroom and things like that, like things you
yeah,
never thought you would ever see yourself doing. And you're
yeah,
like, oh my God, like
yeah,
you're
yeah,
freaking out because you're like, I miss the person that used to be there. Like, oh my God.
mm,
And
yeah.
you still want to make sure that you support them to through every stage of their lives as well. So it's just, you
It's
know,
yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, and as you were saying, like when you were talking about how it's important to make sure that you're there, right? And also that it's a shift, right? Because you're looking at your parent and you're used to them being the parent, and now it's like the roles are reversing.
right,
And one of the things I've learned is that I had to become very resourceful, because once they start to, their health declines and they can't do a lot of the things that they used to do, sometimes their voice also goes away, meaning they
right,
can't speak up for themselves. They can't go and research the things that they need to do. And so I had to like really step up and be that resource for my mom. And, you know, just simple stuff like going online and researching what benefits her health insurance covers. You know what I'm
hmm,
saying? 'Cause
yep,
that's something that she would have normally been able to do herself. But now, that's something that I have to do, because if not, there's probably a lot of resources out there that we're not taking advantage of, that she
and
has
that they're
access
missing out on.
and missing out on. Yeah. And you need that support. And I think a lot of times, especially women, because we are, especially entrepreneurial women, we are, trained to like take it all on, right? And, be the superhero and do it
Yeah,
all. But the truth of the matter is that you cannot do it all. And if you try to do it all, you might be able to do it all, but you are going to be a mess.
yes,
And I don't know anybody who wants to live their life in a mess, right? And you're really not, you're not able to be the best for your parents or your child if you are not good yourself. And so I
absolutely.
feel like it's important to obviously do the self-care, but you also have to, you know, lean on resources, lean on other people,
Yep.
don't suffer in silence. I can't tell you, we started this sister girl talk call like every other Sunday. And the reason why I started it was because I realized I was having individual conversations, checking in, talking with my girlfriends every once in a while. And what was so interesting to me was that we were all going through the same thing.
Yeah.
I realized like you had become a caregiver for your mom. My other girlfriend had become she had, she's been a caregiver for many years, and she's
Hmm.
been going through it, through the trenches with it, and doing it so gracefully. And then I had another girlfriend, one of my other girlfriends who were on our call. Also, her parents live in Long Island, New York. And, she drives up every weekend. She works in advertising, drives up every weekend and stays with her parents to help out. And so I was like, man, it's like a lot of us going through the same thing. And a lot of times we suffer in silence because we don't know. We're not leaning on, other people and each other. And I think that that is so important because it will ease the stress, and you can learn, you get tapped into resources, and it just makes the journey a lot easier when you take the guards down and reach out for help. I think that's super important.
That is very important. Team building, because we're hearing a lot about that. Team building, also making sure that you yourself, part of your self care is aligning with people who are having a similar life experience to you, because not only can you get tips and suggestions on how to make it better, resources, things like that, but just it is human nature to need to hear from people who are having a similar experience. So you know that it's not just you. It truly is
Right.
the cycle of life. The fact that
Mhm.
you're an entrepreneur changes the game a little bit because
Right.
rather than having to show up to a 9 to 5 every day, you may have a little bit more time flexibility, but you also have a ton of
Stuff.
responsibility on you. If you have a team that you're supporting, you that's on you as well. But one
Mm.
of the things that I found that really helps is the ability to say, because language is so important. Words are so important. But like, at first, because I was so sleep deprived and just stressed, I was
Mhm.
constantly making it sound like motherhood was terrible. And then I was like, wait a second, I prayed for this, like I waited for this, like I wanted this, and what is going on? And there's plenty of
Mhm.
people who don't get this opportunity. And
Right.
I've always, thank God for my son. He's the best thing that ever happened to me for sure. And I always say I don't know what I did to deserve to be his mom, but thank you so much because he is the perfect person, the perfect little person for me, right? So that's also part of the experience of being able to be his mom in this moment in time and be Geraldine's daughter in this moment in time and be able to support them both. That is something I get to do, right?
Yeah.
And nothing can remind you of that faster than someone who doesn't have parents. You can
Yeah.
have a conversation with them and they will make you feel grateful for every single moment that you, even though your heart is breaking sometimes because you're like, I just want like
Yeah.
my mom back, or I
Right.
just want my dad back. Um,
Right.
I lost my dad at 16, so he's been gone a really long time. But like when you talk to someone who does not have parents, they will, they
Say,
will,
I do anything for to have them back, even if, it
absolutely.
means me taking care of them. Yeah.
They would give anything for the chance to be
Mhm.
a caretaker in
Mhm.
that way. And so, it really is the way that you look at something and being able to say, I get to do this in this moment in time. And it's not easy, but it is a privilege. I really
Yeah.
do look at it like it's a privilege.
I
And so,
believe that. Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, and that goes back to the whole mindset thing. It's the way that the perception, right? It's the perception that you have around the situation that you're in and how you're going to steward it, right? Because like you said, if you look at it as like, I get to do this,
Right.
I don't know how long my parents are going to be here or, but I get to do this in this moment. It changes everything. It changes, your tone, right? It changes because, you get frustrated, you get tired, right. But when you change your perspective and your mindset, it changes everything. It changes the way you show up. It changes the level of grace that you give yourself,
Yep.
right? Um, and I think I want to say this because I think this is something that needs to be said. And I want to put this out there. I think as caregivers, a lot of times we can lose ourselves just like in a marriage, sometimes, especially as women, we can lose ourselves. We can lose like, our identity and what we stand for and, the things that we've wanted, the things that we believe in, like all those things can sometimes get kind of swept under the rug because you've
Yep.
got these new responsibilities. Um, and I think a lot of times we don't take the time to really care for ourselves. And I think that that's really important because, again, if you're not good, you're not good for them. And
Right.
so I know for me, I wanted to just share like some tips, like some things that I've done to kind of just help make sure that I'm good, right? That self care. So like one of the things I personally love, I love getting massages. I've always loved going to the spa. My mom started taking me to the spa when I was like maybe 12, 13 years old. So that's kind of the thing we used to do. And so I love going to the spa. So every month, once a month, I go and get a massage. And when I tell you that time is like, usually I'll like carve out a day and while Layla's at school, I'll go get a massage and then maybe I'll go have lunch by myself. Um, Giving that time, that mental space. Because I think
Mm.
that's another thing as entrepreneurs, especially before like I became a mom and became a caregiver. When I tell you time and quietness and
Right.
distraction free time,
Right.
and that was like priceless, right? And you don't
was.
get a lot of that
That's
after.
the thing. That's the resource that that is
Hmm.
as scarce as it could possibly be. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that you just like that was a right on point that to end with that tip right there is that you know, not only do you get to do this, but also one of the things that can be a main source of misery is if you're constantly mourning the way you used to do things, the way
Yeah.
you used to hang out, the way you used to run your business. Like,
Mhm.
yes,
Gotta
you
let it
did that.
go.
You did it to the best of your ability and you enjoyed yourself and you partied all night and you traveled.
Mhm.
Now you're doing this and you're doing
Yeah.
this to the best of your ability. And this could be a better version of you. Like, it's not
Mm.
mourning who you used to be as if you died. You know, a part of you did. But it's not like you couldn't have it back if you wanted, if you really, really wanted. But what you really wanted was a family. And you
Mm.
really want to make sure that you're there for your parent. And
Yeah.
you really want to you know, be good at this thing because
Mm.
you get the privilege of raising these gorgeous, precious, delicious little human beings and of honoring the person who raised you. And that is a privilege. It just is. You know, I don't is it stressful? Yes. Are you tired? Yep, we're tired.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the bags are certainly there. And definitely, would you love like some quiet time? Like, one of the things that I do now for my birthday is I just get a weekend where it's just me,
Mm.
wherever I
Yeah.
want to go, and it's just me because that is even more precious now. Before for my birthday, I used to go on, you know, for my island vacations and then party the whole time and come back exhausted.
Right.
Now it is
Yeah.
jacuzzi sleep time, like just
Right.
quiet, so I don't hear anything but my thoughts. But whatever you
Mhm.
have to do to make sure that you can feel like you again is important, but mourning who you used to be, like as if you're missing out on something,
Yeah.
that is the wrong way. And also it will start to make your kid pick up on that and resent it a
Mhm.
little bit. Like, well, what did they have
Yeah.
me for? If I ruined
Yeah.
your life, you know what I'm
Mm.
saying? That you won't hear that voiced until they're around 9 or 10 years old. But if that's
Exactly.
what you given, that's what they're giving right back. Kids are a mirror reflection.
Mhm.
If you make them feel like
And
a
they're
burden,
watching.
you're gonna
Yep.
make sure you understand you made them feel like a burden.
Yeah.
And they might say it might not articulate it while they're young, but they're certainly going to. And
Yeah.
same for your parents. If you make your parents feel like a burden, it's like, did they make you feel like a burden? Because that's not, you know,
Yeah.
the way that you should make it flow.
Mhm.
So I mean, there's so many different layers to it, but especially as entrepreneurs, where we're alpha, we are, you know, some of us are control freaks,
Mhm.
and want to make sure that everything runs just in this way. You have
Mm.
to let it flow in a certain way, but definitely systems, teams, all core.
Yeah.
Systems, teams, mindset, core.
Mhm. Yeah, and prioritizing, yeah, and carving out time to for yourself because so that you
Mhm.
can come back and I find that it's so funny. Like for example, I went to the gym yesterday and I hadn't been in a couple weeks just because things are really busy and I could tell like it was like day and night, right? When I came home from the gym, I was like happy and I was excited and I was in such a good mood. I felt good. And I thought to myself, man, self-care is so important because I get to show up in a
Right.
better way. I get to show up happy. I get to show up, with energy. I get to show up for my daughter and my mom, with love and not frustration and not stressed. And so, that self-care, I'm telling you, it's a priority so that you can be the best mom and the best caregiver that you can be. And like you said, baking in those systems and making sure that you have structure so that you can do the things that you need to do. And then changing your perspective, looking
Absolutely.
at it like the glass is full because it really is, and
Absolutely.
you
It
get
really is. That's the thing. All of
yeah.
those demons that are telling you something's wrong, you're missing out, you
Mhm,
can't do it the same way you used to do it. You're literally looking at all the
mhm,
people. who you used to do it with and they're still doing it.
Yeah.
And then I start to think to myself, if I wanted to keep doing it like that forever, I would not have wanted to be a mom,
Yeah.
because
Sure.
I already knew that there's going to be a life change. I wanted
Yeah.
to be a mom.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
am so blessed and such a better person for having him in my life. It's not even funny. Kids will
Yeah.
make you better in every possible way if you let them. They
Yep.
really will. You will be like, wow, the old me
Mm-hmm.
would have missed all these things. Like, it is an
Yeah.
experience to be missed if you are blessed enough to have it, and also just to appreciate it. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like,
Embrace it. Yeah.
exactly. Entrepreneurs defy gravity every single day. We
Mm-hmm.
survive through mortgage crisis, meltdowns, recessions, Trump administrations, all kinds of things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we make it work through global pandemics and all of that. You're keeping a business alive. You defy gravity. You are literally superhuman. And
Yeah.
and caretaking a parent and a child is just one more thing that you do that it positively impacts lives, that creates a quality experience in life, the same way you create a quality experience for your clients and your customers.
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah.
else that we want to talk about as far as the caretaking entrepreneur goes?
I'm thinking, one thing that came to mind real quick is that, you mentioned like just having to let things go. And I think that that's so important. And looking at it that like this is a new season of your life and that to embrace it and to
Uh-huh.
create your new normal. That was one of the hardest things I had to do. Like you said, not reminiscing on the old life that I had and being okay with and embracing the new life. And then figuring out what does that look like? Like, how do I recreate this new life to fit my new life and new responsibilities and new privileges and all of those things. And then working within that. And I think
Yep.
that's the hardest part. But if you can do that and you can take your time and figure out, okay, what does my new schedule look like? What does this look like? And then how can I find some joy in that? How can I carve out time for myself, carve out time, for your kids and for your parents, and just create that new experience. I think it makes it a lot easier and enjoyable, and it allows you to really navigate that new season of your life. So I think those are the most
Absolutely.
important things. Yeah,
And
but this
and because I'm the comms coach, I will just circle it back to communications, because it's
Mhm.
about so much more than just PR, right? How you show up in your company dictates how you communicate about it. How
Mhm.
you communicate about it dictates how others communicate about it. And learning to communicate about your business in a way that makes it sound as great as it is and as impactful as it is the best thing that you can do to transition from a forgotten founder who's been a lifelong member of the Best Kept Secret Society into a founder who is positioned for profit, for the win, and people know who you are as an authority in your space. And before you can get to the point where you are communicating properly about your business and really making that transformation, you have got to, as a caretaker, take care of you, take care
Mhm.
of the people that you love, who are close to you, set up those systems to make sure that everyone can feel at peace and thrive. And then you can really shift all your energies to really positioning your business in the right way. PR is an exercise in positioning. And
Mhm.
if you are a founder who feels like your company would benefit from communications or PR, I want you to go download my free guide. It's on www.shantebacon.com. Totally free, PR Pocket Guide. And it's just the 8 most expensive mistakes that entrepreneurs make that keep their businesses from getting covered in the media. And so that's kind of like the universal 8 principles. Then there's a few more for entrepreneurs that are caretakers and parents, and there'll be a different version of that that guide that's created and tailored specifically to caretakers. But something, a free resource you can get right now that will help is available on shantebacon.com, and that is the free guide. Um, this has been like a great conversation, and it's helped me in a lot of ways as well, because
Same.
the entrepreneurship is a journey, not a destination. And in general, everything in life is, when you enjoy the journey and don't be so focused on the destination, what I call destination obsession, you actually can enjoy and celebrate, small milestones that all get you to the right place. If you are a person who feels like you're waiting to one day wake up in the promised land, that's a recipe for ongoing misery, because you're never going to wake up and be like, oh, I'm there. I became the person I wanted. Everything's in place. This is what I
There's
always wanted.
always another level.
Like, no, it's the journey. Even
It
when you get to the place where you want to get to, then you're going to have a whole new milestone to set. Like, now I
Yep.
want to go further. And that's okay. It's just that you have to learn to enjoy it as you go along, especially when you have a child and you're caretaking a parent, because the truth is you're caretaking an aging parent. They are aging. These moments are
It's
fleeting,
gonna be there
and
forever.
you
Yeah.
want to appreciate every single minute, every single experience, creating memories and
And your
being able
kid, your child grows up so fast. Before you know it,
absolutely.
they're going off to school, to college, they're out the house, and you're like, you're an empty nester,
Where's
right?
my
So
baby? Right.
yeah, yeah, it goes by
Where's
so
my baby?
yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
parenthood goes so fast. Like, you wake up one day, you bring a 6 pound baby into the house. The next day, they're 45 pounds and they're diving off the couch. Like, when did this happen? Holy
yeah. Or
smokes.
like turning the other cheek when you go to kiss them. I'm like, are
Oh,
we
yes.
already there yet? My daughter, when I take her off, drop her off to school, she's already like, oh no, mom, don't kiss me. I'll see you later. I'm like, really? We're there. We're
We're
there
all
here. We're already there yet.
He's like, no, don't kiss
Mm,
me. I'm like, what? You
no.
don't want my kisses?
Right.
He's
My feelings be hurt.
like, mine too. I'll just be standing there waiting for him to blow me a kiss or act like you're gonna miss me today. He runs up the stairs to school. Bye. I'm like,
But right.
bye.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. Not gonna
Embrace the
miss me
moment.
at all, huh?
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like, celebrate every single moment, because life is
Mhm.
just a series of moments.
It
And
is.
if you're always looking at the destination, you're missing all of the wonderful experiences that you're having every single day. And that's where your story's told, and that's the magic to your company, your
Yeah.
story. So
Yeah.
I think that this was great, and we'll do more of these caretaker conversations. I think we'll do another one next Friday or the Friday after.
Yeah.
But again, go to shantebacon.com to get that free guide. And you will hear and see a lot more about more of these PR Power Hours. We will, if anybody has any questions or thoughts about PR as it relates to their business, we'll be answering those questions during these PR Power Hours. And that's it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for joining us. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Monique.
Guys, yeah. Thanks for having me. It's good.
We'll see you soon.
All right. Talk soon. Bye.